Hey guys. So I'm so happy that I'm here today because there are very few people who are running for office who seem to care about blockchain or cryptocurrency or Bitcoin or anything. You find so many of them, they're only concerned about their own power in the old ways. Now, I might say, why does that matter? Well, let me ask you a question if I could. Some of you might know this. The company Shapeshift. Some of you know it? Yeah, some of you do. Good. Okay. If you go back about 2 years ago, there were 2 states where Shapeshift wouldn't work. One was New York. The other was North Korea. Ouch. Now there are 3. New York, North Korea, and Washington State. Yes, it's growing and bleeding here in America. We are finding this is growing in America and across the world. If we don't do something, we're going to regulate this industry into something that we don't even know what it's going to be like, into something that will be almost useless. All the good in this industry will be basically regulated away. It's already bleeding now. So we have to do something. Now, some of you right now may be thinking, should I do something? But you can't right now because, my God, isn't the Wi-Fi terrible? Oh, yeah. Okay, so you guys don't care. Fine. I'm going to put this clicker down. Because all I care about is just me. That's all I care about. All right, so you might say, okay, so Larry, that's great. But why do I care about New York State? Why does that matter? Because New York State is one of those 3 states that's trying to get angry and push out cryptocurrency. What happens in New York State will happen in other areas and in your state and actually across the country and across the world. Why do I say that? New York State is like many other states, and that is, I see something new, and the second I see something new, hit it with a stick. I don't like it. Regulate it. I don't understand it. We got to make change. Oh my God. Protect the people from this new evil idea. You see it all the time. So, if you are someone who's in this space and you say, well, Larry, what matters most when it comes to cryptocurrency is 2 things. 1, it is secure, and 2, it's easy. I hear that all the time. But there's one thing missing. It has to seem not scary. I'm not joking when I say that. It has to seem not scary. Because if it seems scary, people who are afraid, they tend to make bad decisions. And what they always ask for is, government, come regulate. And when they say government, come regulate, all of a sudden what happens? Bit license in New York State. And if you guys know what bit licensing is in New York State, when the bit license came out, the concept of having a bit license, 22 different companies left New York State. 22. Packed up and left. 22 companies not employing people, 22 companies not paying taxes, 22 companies not being innovative, 22 companies not growing, did nothing but hurt my state. That's why I care so much. 22 left. But here's the best part. The actual bit license, how hard and difficult it was, the guy who was in charge of it, who actually made sure that this regulation was enacted, he then left the regulatory body and became a consultant. Guess what he was consulting on? Bit licensing. Of course he did. Yes, he did. So he decided, this is some really, this is high-level crony capitalism corruption. This is high level. This is a point where someone says, hey, governor, let me give you some money so you can put me on a board so I can create a maze at taxpayer money, then I can leave and then become the guardian of this maze and get paid millions of dollars. Well done. Well done. But embarrassing for my state, and I don't want it to happen anyplace else. The idea of a bit license has to go away. Now you might say, well, great, Larry, we'll just pass a law or repeal the law. There's a problem with that. It's not a law. And here is where they get us consistently. It's not a law. What it actually is a regulation put in place by a regulatory body. So the governor says, I'm scared of something because it's new. I don't want to allow new money in my state because I'm happy with the old money that supports me. So I'll create a regulatory body and I'll tell my guys, shut it down. And this is what many states do very well. New York is one of the best. They don't actually ban it. They just regulate it so much that only the cronies, only the big businesses, only those who donate lots of money have any chance of actually taking any advantage of anything new. And that's what happened. When that happens, how do we get around it? We can't. I was at an event 2 nights ago in Manhattan regarding cryptocurrency, and the guy says, Larry, what else can we do besides vote for you for governor? By the way, I'm running for governor of New York. So, what did you say, what party? Are you insane? Are you insane? What possible party could care about cryptocurrency? What party? Libertarian, are you insane? Why would you even ask that question? Why would you even ask that question? That's insane to ask. Do you think the old parties would care about cryptocurrency, would care about blockchain? Do you know what happens when you bring blockchain or cryptocurrency into a government? It gets safer, it gets smaller, it gets cheaper. That's against everything they stand for. Why in the world would they do that? Think about the jobs of the people who give them money will just go away. No, that was a silly question. I love you, but that was a silly question. It's a clearly Libertarian Party, thank you. But my point being, the guy says, Larry, what else can we do besides vote for you? And I told him honestly, nothing. Nothing. You can change the Assembly, you can change the Senate, you can do whatever you want. This is not a law. It's a regulation by an appointee from the governor. So here's the issue. In many states, when you find this happen in your world, realize sometimes the guy at the top matters. In this case, he does in New York. Now, why do I push New York so much? Why am I talking so much about New York? Because New York is the one who started this bit license garbage that is going to go to other states, guaranteed. Because New York is the one that if it changes in New York, it can change every place else. That's why it matters so much. But let me go back to my idea of being scary, the scary piece. I will often talk to the average person, and this will make some of you tech guys angry. I always say, look, cryptocurrency, it's like, trading baseball cards when you were a kid, or trading Beanie Babies when you were a kid, or trading comic books when you were a kid. That's what it's like. And they go, what do you mean? I said, well, if you were a kid and you had some comic books, you want to trade an Iron Man #1, how much does that Iron Man #1 cost? And they said, what? How much is it worth? Well, it depends if everybody wants to pay for it. Yeah. The comic book community gets together and says, we all agree this comic book is worth so-and-so dollars, and we'll pay for it if we want to. Or, what happens when you trade comic books? You trade your Iron Man #1 for 2 Hulk #1s. I don't know if it's a good trade, by the way, guys. I don't know. But let's say, for the sake of argument, it's a good trade. You make that trade. Where's the government involved in that trade when you trade your Iron Man #1 for 2 Hulk #1s? Where's the government? Where? Nowhere. Yes, nowhere. The government is nowhere. So why does the government have to be involved when you're trading your Litecoin for your Bitcoin? Or whatever the case may be. Now, I know that isn't an exact analogy. And sometimes people get upset when I say that. But guess what? It's close enough and it makes the average person feel comfortable. And that's what matters. It's close enough, it lets the average person feel comfortable. They're not afraid. Because if you've been paying attention, here's what you hear. Cryptocurrency? Oh my God, terrorists win. Cryptocurrency? Oh my God, human trafficking. Cryptocurrency? Oh my God, it's got crypto in the name. It must be about death. It is literally that simple what people are talking about. Fear is everywhere. If you bring up comic books, baseball cards, and Beanie Babies, that sounds real nice. And when that sounds real nice, it's not so scary, and at least they'll hear you. Because mainstream matters. If we make this more mainstream, we've got a shot at actually making this happen throughout the United States. Right now, you all know, the US is behind the times when it comes to cryptocurrency and blockchain. You know that. I know it too. I don't like that. That bothers me. That bothers me. How are we going to change it? All right, in New York State, I have a plan. Yes, I do. I'm not just a handsome man. I am a handsome man, but I'm not just that. I've also got something up here going on too. So, 3 things is what I want us to worry about when it comes to New York State. Number 1, I want you to be able to pick one of 3 things. So I'm sorry, 3 different things you can pick. 1, you can choose to be a retailer. If you are a retailer and you just want to use cryptocurrency, what everyone gets mad about is how we're going to pay sales tax. Why are we going to pay sales tax? I can pay sales tax. This is a terrible thing. We can't do this. They're going to hide. The world's going to end. Very simple. All you're going to do, at the end of every month, when you have to pay your sales tax, you're going to add up how much cryptocurrency you took. In this case, you brought on 6.2 Bitcoin this month. Good for you. You can look at the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, see what the average price was of that current month that you're paying your taxes for, write that check for the percentage of your sales tax. Have a nice day, you're done. You might say, but Larry, that isn't perfect. You're right. It is not perfect. But it's good enough to get people using it. It's good enough to get states and cities to accept it. It's good enough to get retailers to do it without being too crazy. And it puts some validation on the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, and that's valuable also. We do that, we start that, and you will see people starting having the right answers to tweak that to make that perfect, to find the holes that are already there, which I'm sure are there, but that's your job to fix, not mine. That's your job to fix. It's my job to make this as mainstream as possible so that people feel safe and they want to use it. Second piece, you don't want to be that, no worries. You can be a trader. Be a trader, all good. Trade your currency as much as you want. Trade it back and forth, I'm not concerned. Do what you need to do, like trading your baseball cards or trading your Beanie Babies or your comic books, all good, trade away. If you trade away, if I trade my comic books, when do I pay my taxes on my comics? Only when you sell, exactly right. You pay your taxes if I sell my comic collection. Pay your taxes if you cash out. When you cash out, pay your taxes. And that's it, done deal. Again, not perfect, but good enough to get this started. Good enough to get this started. Do it, trade whatever you want, pay your taxes when you cash out, life is good. 3, you want to be a bank. Okay, you want a loan, all good, go ahead. Act like a bank with one exception. No fractional reserve. No fractional reserve. We don't want that at all. No clapping on no fractional reserve. Thank you. What's wrong with you? Thank you. Yes, absolutely. I would like to show the world that you can have an actual banking industry without having to have a Fed. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? So yes, so we can actually make that happen. Thank you. This is why I'm putting so much on this. It's important and it matters. If we make this mainstream, you will see more and more people use this. Now, people tell me all the time, but Larry, then people will start hiding their money. They might do that. Maybe. But then people will kind of get their money out of countries and stuff like that, and maybe, could happen, absolutely. But it's already happening now. Some of you may or may not know this. I work in Manhattan, live in New York City, and I see this all the time. You have some Chinese or Russian oligarch who's in Russia or China making billions of dollars. He's trying to get his money out of Russia. He can't. Get his money out of China. He can't. What does he do? He buys 3 or 4 $10 million apartments in Manhattan, and they're empty. And there's literally a manager, an actual manager who manages his property to make sure his bills get paid, and there's no one living in these apartments. Why? He's waiting for one of the oligarchs, one of the bad guys to go, oh, you're a criminal because I need money, so let me call you a criminal, put you in jail, seize your assets to pay off my debt. That happens all the time in those countries. When that happens, he can flee. He heads to Manhattan. He flees. His kids are probably born here. His kids are in school. He moves into one apartment, sells the other one. He has some cash. Life is good. Happens. Not just that. What if you aren't that rich? What if you're rich but not that wealthy? You're not an oligarch. You're some wealthy guy, wealthy Spaniard, wealthy Greek, wealthy Italian, and your economy's collapsing. What do? You buy art, and lots of it. You put your money in art. Have any of you been to Manhattan and you see some gallery where no one is ever in the gallery ever, and somehow this gallery is making money? Anybody ever seen it before? Oh, yes, you've seen it, exactly. No one's ever in the gallery, and somehow they're paying bills. Why? Because they got 200 Greeks or Italians or Spaniards who bought a bunch of art online, and they're storing it in their gallery, and they're paying a small rental fee every month. That's how they get their money out. That's how they can survive. So if you're wealthy, you get to get your money out when the crash comes. But the advantage of the crypto world is you can get your money out when a crash comes, no matter how wealthy you are. Whether you're rich, poor, an oligarch, a Russian, a Spaniard, or an American, it doesn't matter. The advantages that I see here make things fairer, they democratize things, they actually make many things more transparent, they make things simpler, they make things cheaper. This is why we have to do this. It is important that we do this. If we don't make this happen in New York, which is why I'm pushing this so much, New York is going to begin to infect the rest of the nation. And on top of this, as an American, I care even more, because when the next crash comes, whenever that is, and all the financial advisors start burning their books, and all the financial advisors start helping out the guys who are powerful and crushing the little guys, America's going to be left behind, while others who are savvy have jumped into cryptocurrency. And we should not let that happen, and I care about that as an American. But not just as an American. Thank you. Thank you. But now, just as a human, just as a person, not even as an American, just as a human, the idea of blockchain technology, not even cryptocurrency, just blockchain technology, democratizes us more, makes us more equal, makes things fairer, helps anybody out. It's a kind of thing that anyone can jump into. And this is important for all human beings. We should be opening this up for everybody. Literally, if you simply have access to the internet, which we don't have here, but everywhere place else we actually have, if you just have access to the internet, then all of a sudden it's all good. That's all you need, and now it's fair. But let me talk specifically about New York State for a moment, if anybody here is in New York. Ah, yes, thank you. We have some New Yorkers here. Thank you so much. For the New Yorkers here, why it matters so much. In New York right now, we have over 100,000 people leaving every single year. They are leaving our state like there's no tomorrow. It is a problem. We lack innovation, we lack the youth, we lack opportunity. Blockchain technology can help in so many ways. It helps with entrepreneurs. It keeps the youth in my state. It gets people to want to stay in my state. It makes government cheaper, which lowers taxes. It helps my state tremendously. That's why I'm pushing it. So if you're listening now and you live in New York, or if you know someone in New York, and you think that blockchain is good for this world, which you should because you're here, vote for me or tell people that they should vote for me. LarrySharpe.com. Thank you so much. I still have some time, so I'm happy to take any question or comment. And if you want to meet any of my team, there are two guys here, right there and right there, who can give you some details about what's going on if you want to chat about them. Is anybody else here who has a question or a comment? Go ahead, please.
Thanks. So would you say, under you, would New York accept Bitcoin as payments for taxes and all other sort of government services?
That's not what I was saying. To be forward with you, that's probably a bridge too far right now for New York. I would like that to be the future. Right now, I just want to be able to say we can translate clearly and obviously certain types of cryptocurrency directly into dollars for payments. That's the first step. Guys, right now, there's only about 8 companies that actually can do any real business in New York with Bitcoin, right? That's unacceptable. So let me make that step first. That's the next step. If I try to go too far, people are going to get afraid. The backlash is it's going to make things worse. I don't want to make things worse. Remember, New York is all about old money. We love old money in New York State. We love the old bankers where they all do it, that's it. We pushed out cryptocurrency. We pushed out hemp. We pushed out marijuana. We tried to push out Airbnb. We tried to push out Uber. It's what we do. When New York State says, oh, new money, bad. That's what New York State does. I want to change that. Did I answer your question? Yeah. Great, good. Go ahead.
and I apologize if you covered this, I was a few minutes late. New York is unique with its New York, the
Can
BIT
you
license.
speak louder, please?
I can.
Thank
New
you.
York is unique with the BIT license, and quite frankly, it puts New York at a competitive disadvantage to the rest of the states. How do you plan to deal with that?
What's the last part of that question?
It puts New York at a competitive disadvantage
Yes,
to the
thank
rest
you.
of the states.
And this is why I'm saying this. Yes, you're totally correct. But here's what's going to happen. You're saying, well, New York's at a competitive disadvantage, so the rest of the states are going to be at an advantage. No, they're going to wind up following and making them all at a disadvantage, right? We're going to actually share the poverty. That's what's going to wind up happening. How do I know that? Washington already copied, right? When North Korea just basically said no, South Korea started to crack down. This stuff spreads. Why does it spread? Not because of logic, because of fear. I want to be clear. Logically, this makes total sense, which is why so many people in this field say, what are we doing? Of course it makes sense. But emotionally, it is scary. That's why I often bring up comic books and Beanie Babies. I did it on purpose, because your point's a valid one. Right now, New York and Washington are at a disadvantage. So what's happening? We're all going to Toronto, right? We're walking away from this area instead, and New York isn't learning anything. We're simply accepting our fear and not making anything better. Washington State jumped behind us, and others will follow, and people will walk away, and they'll go to Toronto, they'll go to Asia, they'll go to Singapore, they'll pack up and leave and go someplace else. I don't want them to. Your point's valid, you're correct, but your logic isn't good enough. It has to be an emotional issue where people aren't afraid. We can make it more mainstream. When that happens, the rest will happen behind it. We will see a tipping point. And that's what I'm trying to achieve. Does that make sense?
Greater competition among the states to try and bring that business in.
It's possible. It is possible that Wyoming will lead the country. But as a general rule, Wyoming never leads the country. I'm just saying the truth. Wyoming also does something very well. Wyoming is very good with farm bills. That's some of the best farm bills in the country. And guess who's followed Wyoming in farm bills? No one. I'm telling you the truth. So you're correct. It could happen. History has shown we follow New York and California. That's what this country does. It follows New York. It follows California. That's what we do. I hope you're right. I hope I'm wrong, and I don't have to do this. That would be amazing. But I think history has shown that I'm probably right. Go ahead.
Hey, Larry, how you doing, man? It's great to see you, of course. So you mentioned old money in New York.
Yeah.
So, and why that is a factor, of course. So talk about the bridge of the transparency of blockchain battling that same aspect from a government standpoint, because that's one of the battles that we face all the time as well.
Yeah, and this is my point. If I'm going to try to actually get the banking industry on my side, I'm fooling myself. That's not going to happen. They're not going to come on my side. They're not going to. If your exact example, old money likes things complicated, convoluted, and opaque. They love that. In fact, so do most government bureaucracies. They prefer things that are convoluted and opaque. They want to make sure that the only way you can have success is if you happen to have literally a department of lawyers and or accountants to get through everything so that you can win. So it's a natural barrier to entry. You're correct. So I'm not even trying that. My goal was to literally remove the BIT license and say, you pick who you are, knowing that there is going to be a bunch of this and disruption when I say that. I get it. And I'm okay with that disruption up front, because that will force people to find the right answers. The next reason why I like cryptocurrency so much and blockchain is for a second reason. I am not a big fan of regulations. Libertarian, surprise. Yes, I'm not a big fan of regulations. And the reason why is regulations are monopoly of force. That's what they are. Regulations decide what people do, and if you don't do it, they punish you in some way, shape, or form. But here's the bad part. When do regulations change? When do they change? Come on, guys, you don't even know. You know why? Because regulations only change when corporate lobbyists change them. Regulations are written by corporate lobbyists and change when corporate lobbyists tell them to change. Let me change the idea, though. Not a regulation, but instead a standard. An insurance standard who will cover the company, a standard from the industry itself, and maybe even a standard from a local community or city or state. Standards. If you don't apply to the regulations, you will go to jail, pay a fine, be stopped in some way, shape, or form. But if you don't apply to the standards, you don't get a stamp. That's it. But you can still function if you want to, which means you can have innovation, change. When do standards change? Anybody know? Yes, they change when new information comes up, when there's new technology, when people learn new things. Standards change all the time. Standards keep us safer, and competing standards keep us even safer. How do I know this? The example, some of you have been hearing me speaking, I will say all the time. Health food stores. Health food stores, the vast majority of products in health food stores are not regulated by the FDA. Not regulated. Where are all the deaths from health food stores? None. I don't know any of them. There may be a couple. But what if there was one? What if a product came out in a health food store and someone took it and died? What would happen? It would go back to the health food store. That company would be sued. That would come off the market. Nobody else would die. The FDA has killed and maimed millions upon millions of Americans with no consequences. Currently, our current issues right now with the opioid crisis, 80% of all addicts somehow came from an FDA-approved prescription. Yet what changes? Nothing. The FDA continues to kill us with zero repercussions. That is why I'm not a fan of regulations. Those regulations haven't changed because corporate lobbyists haven't changed them. But standards change all the time. And if I can get this industry to understand that, if I can get this state to accept that, if I can create competing standards, insurance standards, industry standards, and local standards that people can sit by and look at and be transparent and see who actually goes by each standard, I can make this the poster child for all technology in the future, because I don't know what the future holds. But I do know this: as we change so fast, we will be afraid, and when we're afraid, we will say, hit it with a stick, I'm scared, regulate, and we will crush it again. And if we do it in America again, we will fall behind again, and we will fall behind again. So, to answer your question, I don't want that bridge. I don't even want to involve them. All I want to do is make standards pop up, let them laugh and think it doesn't matter, let the consumer decide what they want to use, watch them use it, and then the banks will follow suit, because they always follow suit. That's why. Did I answer your question? Good. Go ahead.
I love your discussion of who's funding what and how regulations only change when lobbyists are paid well enough to make them change. And so it brings me to a question that I would love to pose to anyone running for political office, which is, who has funded your campaign? And how much of your funding has come from, the Sharpe coin? And have you thought about other alternatives to governmental change that may not come from inside if this is not a successful campaign? So I guess there's kind of three questions in there.
That's a lot of questions.
The first is, who's funding you? What big money have you taken, and who's going to be lobbying for you?
Great question. The people who are funding me, well, first off, Russians. I'm kidding. No. Yes. Kidding. Yes. Exactly. Got me out. Exactly. Comrade Putin, he's, no, kidding. No, it's a good question. My average donation is about $100. That's my average donation. I have several large donors who've given over 5 figures. I'm a large donor within my own. I've donated to myself also. I'm my 3rd or 4th largest donor. So many people have given over 5 figures, over $10,000 to my campaign. The max you can give is $44,000. That's the campaign finance rule. So I know one of you was thinking, oh, 45. I know one of you was thinking that, but no, you cannot, only 44,000. So I have a couple people who've given me over that, but most of the people who've given me big dollars, to be forward with you, they're people who are very big in the liberty movement, who want to see liberty moved forward in the United States. They are, generally speaking, not crypto people, not blockchain people. They're not. They're just people who've been around the block a lot, and they see this campaign is actually doing something, that we're moving forward and building something, and they put a lot of money into it. So there's a couple people, if I mention them separately, I don't want to say it out loud, you can check my filings. They're going to come out literally like a week. Look, today is my last day for reporting, so you can actually read who they are next week when it comes out. But they are big people in the liberty movement and a whole lot of grassroots people. A lot of $100, $25. I have a couple people give me $3, and we do a lot of recurring. We do take Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, and Bitcoin Cash. We do take them. They're not a large part of our donor base, but some people do it. In fact, those guys holding a sheet of paper up can show you how that's done. So yes, they do that also, absolutely. So that's who funds me. Did I answer your question? Good. About half of the people who fund me actually come, a little more than half, probably come out of New York State, but a lot do come out of state also. Again, because they see this as a premier election. They know that if we change New York State, we change the nation. So I get support from out of state also. What's your second question? Yeah, it's a great question. As a general rule, I'm good at this. That's what I'm good at. I have been an officer in a public company twice, and I am a consultant, so I do for my day job. I am a consultant. I've had my own business for 14 years. I teach now at Baruch, and I've taught at the graduate level as a guest instructor at both Yale and Columbia. So I actually can move into a position like that if I wanted to, and I will consider it. And people have offered it already. People have asked me to deal with PACs and all kind of stuff. But here's what I want to do. I want to win. And if I win, I change government by default. And that's what I want to do. I want to win. If I can't win, I would support someone else to win. Because in my eyes, if you win at the top, victory is a panacea. It's a cure-all, right? Once you win, people assume you're right. I know it sounds terrible, but it's true. So if I win, people will hear me. If they hear me, I can make change because people listen to me. So people have asked, but I'd like to stay in this arena because I'm good at it. Did I answer your question? Great. Was that it? Good. Thank you. Good. All right. Any other question or comment? Go ahead. Today's my birthday. It is. Today's my birthday. So if you want to give me... Say again? Yes, that is correct. Yes. It is absolutely my birthday. Yes. And we do better. Yes. And I'm 50 today. I'm 50 today. Yes. So thank you for that. That's awesome. All right. Any other questions or comments? Awesome. Thank you, everybody. LarrySharpe.com. Sharpe with an E, and the E stands for electable.
Hey, Larry, Kevin has a question.
Oh, we have one more? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You said you mentioned fear.
Yeah.
Usually fear stems from not understanding.
Correct. Yes. Yes. Great question. All right. But a great point. He says fear. I'm sorry. I hope I'm not going too late. I apologize. All right. He talked about the idea of fear. And he says fear usually comes from people not understanding. That's often true. Yes, very often true. What are we doing about educating? Here's the problem. You guys, in general, really bad at that. I'm sorry. You're really bad at that. You speak your own language that no one understands. You say things that sound scary. Things like blockchain, that's scary. Crypto, that's scary. You say things like that. Mining, oh my God, it's scary. These are all things that make people afraid. So I think the answer is what I've been saying. It's like comic books. It's like Beanie Babies. If you want someone to hear you first, get a good emotional piece that feels good, which is like trading. I talk about trading. I tell people, I say, don't you want to trade in whatever you want to trade in? If somebody wanted to say, as an example, someone decided they wanted to buy your couch and they wanted to give you a car for it, would you be okay with it? Well, yeah, if it's a good car, yeah. If you like that car and you want it, you'd take the car for a couch if you wanted to. It's up to you. Why should someone else step in between that if you want to make that trade? You should trade with what you want to trade with. And people go, oh, that makes sense. And then we talk about cryptocurrency. The more you talk about it's just trading back and forth, the more you talk about warm and fuzzy things, then they will hear the other words and they won't sound as scary. To be very forward with you, if you go back 4 or 5 years ago, I had almost no idea what this was. When someone said Bitcoin, I thought Bitcoin and blockchain were the same thing. That's what I believed. Same thing, no difference. I thought if you said Bitcoin, you meant blockchain. You said blockchain, you meant Bitcoin. That's what I thought. I didn't know it. It took me time to figure this out. It will take others also. So his point's a valid one. People are afraid, but what I want you to do is not start talking about the details of the actual transactions or even the industry. Talk about how it feels. Talk about trading. Talk about the idea of helping others. Talk about the idea of it being fairer and cheaper. Talk about the big fuzzy ideas first. When they start going, oh, that sounds great, then talk details. If you detail first, you turn them off and scare them, you increase fear. And remember, people who are afraid tend to make bad decisions. We don't want to encourage that. We want to make sure they're making good decisions. And blockchain technology is a good decision. Have a good night, guys.